Hey guys, so I just want to go over the re-release of TBC at this point, the Race to World First of SSC and TK. Progress did it again. We're looking right now at back in 2021. They were able to clear both of these raids in an hour and 45 minutes. And this time they did it in an hour and like 5 minutes. We'll look at the logs afterwards. But I just want to talk about how they were able to do this almost 50% faster compared to 4 years ago. First thing is lots of experience. Most of these players were playing the previous version of TBC Classic, and it just is kind of like riding a bike at some point where you get a lot of practice doing this kind of stuff. They've practiced on the PTR before this version came out, but the biggest difference for the time save is it's post nerf now. Everything that they're fighting just kind of falls over, and from the viewer perspective, it's definitely a lot more boring to watch this kind of stuff. Everything just falls over. So I get it if you're playing this game and you have challenges. Challenges are not something that classic players like to face very much. They want to get the loot and go back to their 4 wives, their 6 children, and their 3 jobs. And that's just what Blizzard has decided. Some of the players are upset about that, but at the end of the day, I do think that a lot of people are frustrated when things don't go well, and things are less likely to go bad. At the same time, though, I think that this creates a wider gap, and the bad groups are still going to struggle with some things. I think we'll have plenty of time to look at some horrible raids in TBC, but for now, we're going to look at the best one that has happened so far. After this was done, Holy Palo was very happy with how it all went. So it was very clean throughout. And let's just highlight a couple of the skips that they do here because most of them have been done before, but again, everything is just falling over so fast that the real difference here, the 2 to 3 minutes of difference between first and second, largely comes down to the skips, the execution of those skips, and how do they go from one instance to the next so quickly. So without further ado, it's just blast mode the entire time. We're going to see them bringing everything together, stacking everything up, and I have heard from some people that it feels like it's harder to do heroics 5 mans than this. The level of boss damage, the amount of health that all this trash has, it might be comparable to a 5 man, and they have 25 people. 25 experienced people. So everything is just absolutely melting. And yeah, just a little bit kind of disappointed. This is like a minute fight. We could look at the kill times in comparison, but it's just melt mode. And it really wasn't as fun to watch this race for world first compared to previously. If we look back here, looking at Newman, they had kind of a rough one where they were wiping on Vosh and their race to world first in comparison progress was an hour and 45 minutes. They were 2 hours and 30 minutes. If you look at the past here, there is a very large disparity in the number of guilds that had a clean run compared to didn't. It was just Progress and Beef Bar that were really competitive. Other than that, people were almost 45 minutes behind. And all these guys are then kind of in that range of about a 2.5 hour clear for SSC and TK. And for all the dad gamers out there, the expectation is that's probably going to take you like 4 hours. And obviously, like we've talked about, just the level of investment that people want to have isn't like that anymore. So if we look here, it does kind of end up being somewhat similar in terms of the disparity, where Progress, and this is Beef Bar, even though it says a different name, but they were very clearly ahead of everyone else. Their strats were better, their execution was better, their skips were better, all that kind of stuff. Who is a guild that is then 12 minutes behind, and then the gap just gets wider and wider, and we're seeing more guilds clear now, but just a big difference between the couple that are really good, that really practice, that have that extra level of pump, and everyone else. So let's now get into a little bit more of that race here. And I think this was one of the new skips that hadn't really been shown before, where what they're going to do is pull all this trash out. They're going to have a hunter go grab all this trash and get summoned. So the hunter is then brought back to the group after they feign death. And at the same time here, the boss is going to be pulled without those extra trash packs in the back. So the boss resets there. Because the boss resets, they go ahead and pull that into a corner here, and that just allows them to skip 2 trash packs. I haven't looked at Beef Bard's perspective yet. They don't stream the race. They want their players to focus on the run, and I don't think they actually even have any streamers. A little bit of lore about Beef Bar. Again, this is just me learning things from this stream. I don't know exactly how true this is, but I've heard that they basically have the biggest sugar daddy you can have, a Saudi oil prince that is a fan of World of Warcraft and is paying for this entire raid to exist. All these guys do is raid and play World of Warcraft, and they're essentially salaried to do that by someone that has unlimited funds. So kind of interesting to see, almost like a soccer, it's like a sports team that these really rich people can just maintain. Crazy world we live in. And like wild, right? I'll just leave it at that, wild. So big elements here is these gnomish cloaking device, parachute cloak, and rocket boots. Being able to have these utilities, and Invispot here as well, this utility to skip through a bunch of stuff. They're dealing with basically no trash. So they don't kill any of these side packs. They just go right up the middle here, and these mobs just absolutely melt. It's like not really a boss. It's like that you're fighting heroic trash in a dungeon. They just poop, 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 melt, melt, melt. This mob here is going to get like a single cast off, so it casts 1 fireball, and then it's dead. Just absolutely gutted as a raid. Again, I'm interested to see long term, is the player base going to just get bored of this? Or because it's so easy in comparison, there will be less burnout and people that are frustrated that they're not able to clear as a group? I don't know the answer to that, but just something to mention there. So during the downtime here, waiting for this next part of the encounter, this is when they go ahead and clear this trash out. So clearing this trash, and now they're just blasting this stuff down. Boss absolutely melts, and very, very quick boss kill. Doesn't really seem challenging at all from these groups' perspectives. Obviously, the average group might still struggle, but just a very clear case here of no difficulties when it comes to the execution of the boss fights. It's all about, can they move through the different trash skips without someone screwing those up? That's really all this is. And you see they pre-summoned everyone, so at the end of the fight here, this is the advantage of a raid being 25 people and you being able in Classic to have 40 people in a raid group. So they have a summon team inside this raid group that is able to instantly summon this next part of the race. So they completed TK extremely quick, like 26 or 30 minutes, something like that. And now they're on to the next one. And this is where true tech comes in. We'll just take a second here and look at this old video. So this is Jampanos from 4 years ago. And I kind of forgot that this guy even existed. If you didn't know, he was canceled and now has reinvented himself as a pandering right-wing streamer. That's just my personal take on it, but yeah, look into it and you make your own take. I'm not trying to get political in this, but it's just funny to look back, and I totally forgot this guy existed. And anyways, So moving forward here, what's being discussed in this video is the skip. And Jampanos was the one to come up with this skip for Gussie back in 2021. And he, in this video, kind of talks about the variance, the challenge of how do you get a group to consistently be able to do this. If one or two people fail, then the time save isn't worthwhile. And he showed how in the original version of TBC before Blizzard nerfed it, you could get all the way to the end boss without having to do like anything. So of course Blizzard wasn't happy about that. But basically the idea is that you are able to angle your character against this ledge right here. And they, again, watch the full video if you want. It's interesting to see the um, way that they are able to, over time, trial and error and make the system that works the best. And they just want to take out any variable that they can of people screwing it up. And that's what the new evolution of this is. So we'll just hear Holopala for a second here.
Yeah, so
Okay, so here we go.
I made a I mean, I figured out a spot where you could basically get stuck in this place here and you wouldn't move. And you angle the camera straight up, and then you align the triangle with this here. Then you know that you are perfectly lined up for the elevator skip. The hard part about this was people were like looking at the floor to find stuff to align with, but when everyone is like 25 people is doing that, it doesn't work. But this works because it's like off to the side and it's consistent because camera is straight up and you're stuck in a spot where you cannot move. So you do that and now you never move your right click, and then boots and cloak, and you get the perfect angle every time.
Fascinating. That to me is just an example of how people are able to, over time, optimize. And I just think it's really cool to see what's happening here. With the introduction of this version, people are able to go back, find what worked best. And in this skip here, it's talked about how they ended up coming in 14th place. They had a wipe on Vash. Again, the last version of TBC was much more challenging to be able to cleanly kill Vash. And ultimately, Progress won previously, and they didn't do this skip. But Progress, they actually have that guy in this raid. So Jampanos is in this raid, the guy that came up with the skip 4 years ago. And now in combination with Holy Pala making that weak aura and that perfect system to optimize it even more, they excelled even more. Improvements on improvements. So they jump on down here, summon a couple of people, they all make it, and now they make the jump and just instantly melt all the trash. Again, this trash just dies so fast throughout this, and the fact that they were able to do that huge skip definitely saved a couple of minutes. Again, we'll just have to see in the follow-up. Maybe we can compare how Beef Bar, what they did for that, if it was similar. I'm curious, but I don't have the ability to see that right now, and I just wanted to get this out as soon as we could, going over why they won. And to me, Progress, if you look at the logs here, we'll just do that in a second. They had consistently faster kills on basically every boss by a couple seconds. So not only were their trash skips all well executed, but they just have really high levels of damage. And you'll notice from this comp here, it's a lot of warlocks. 2, 4, 5 warlocks. It looks like 6 warlocks. So 6 warlocks in total and 3 hunters. Very heavy range comp. And yeah, just interesting again to see that style of, in the past there was some discussion if it made more sense to bring a melee comp or a more ranged focused comp. I think over time, once people get more SSC gear and TK gear, my understanding is that melee is really strong, even though, there's technically these mechanics that are punishing for melee. With the fact that we are in the post-nerf version of the game, everything just kind of melts and falls over, and that usually favors melee comps more. Less casting, more dragging, more Zug. But for a progression comp like this, especially while they don't have any of that next set of tier gear, it makes sense why they would go with a more range comp focus, higher execution, and I guess that is kind of the trade-off where if you have a whole ton of warlocks that can just spam seed, it's really powerful when you're fighting large packs. So like here, you're seeing a big pack pulled, and it's all warlocks that are just seeding at the top. And again, I don't have a whole ton of experience with TBC, but hearing people talk about this fight, I just remember Tidewalker being a little bit of a tank buster, a fight where tanks will fall over. And if you notice in this fight, his health just never dips. It's always super safe. Um, these Murlocs just absolutely melt. So in a lot of cases, it just feels like it's gutted. It is super, super easy in comparison. And I do think that that is good overall for the speedrunning scene. The fact that runs are going to be so fast normally is just more fun for people that are trying to speedrun. So there goes Lurker, absolutely melts. They run on up, kill all this trash, group everything up, pump it down. Again, it's all casters at the top of those pulls doing seed and maybe a mage doing arcane explosion. But anyways, hunters on this fight are clearly very, very strong. So then they're making their way to the final boss. And again, everything just kind of melts. No one dies. I think there's one death in the whole instance. We didn't really highlight that, but it's just someone that onked as a shaman and wasn't a big deal. So yeah, just kind of interesting to see how much it was proven correct that post nerf everything falls over. They've practiced it. That's part of the reason it was like 40 minutes faster than previously, but also just not as much challenge. So that's it. And let's just look here at the logs. We are looking at Beef Bar first. They did it in 602 to 655. Comparatively to these guys, it looks like maybe they started a large slightly later. I do think that on the opener their progress, they had like a patrol that they had to kill, um, but ultimately just that little bit later. It actually looks like oh, yeah, so progress is faster here. That's what it is. So yeah, 604 to 655, so that 2 minutes faster. And again, if we just look overall here, the fact that other people were so far behind, just interesting to see that gap. Two people way in advance and kind of a more distant third. So anyways, just had to give some thoughts, and GG's till the next one, guys. Thanks for tuning in.